Beautiful home, wise investment. Syntex tank, air strong, air tough. Virtual security, complete security solution. Yo-bent security doors, protecting lives and property. DPS pipes, connecting you to life. Superlock, you deserve the best. Everlast UPVC windows and doors, the right choice for your windows. Another quality solution from Interplast. EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair. Get a house, make it a home.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Ghana Connect. Call it conflict of interest, call it state capture. These are some of the words that have been used to describe the deal between SSNIT and Rock City Hotel, owned by Food and Agric Minister Dr. Brian Achampong, to take over some hotels. 4 hotels, including the prestigious Labadi Beach Hotel, owned by pensioners and held in trust by the Social Security and National Insurance Trust. Samuel Okudjota Blakwa, the Member of Parliament for North Tongue, who did put this out in the public, has been on a crusade together with organized labor to get this deal strike out. There are so many people who have said this deal just does not cut it and government should not be going ahead. In fact, only last Tuesday, there was a demonstration on the principal streets of Accra where the NDC minority in parliament and other groups in the country did put out their clearest statement that they are not going to let this deal go through. Already, organized labor have served notice that if government pushes through with this deal, they are really going to make life unbearable for government and in particular the employment minister. So tonight on the show, we zoom right into this conversation. Should public officials be allowed to buy state assets? And would you support any law that will seek to ban completely any public official from buying state assets? This is what is agitating our minds this evening on Ghana Connect.
He's targeting the very profitable ones. Labadi Beach. He's looking at Elmina, strategic location, prime land, beachfront, La Palm, Ridge Royal.
We cannot imagine that state properties will be sold to a minister of state. For us, it smacks of state capture, and that should be stopped, and stopped immediately.
Call on President Akufo-Addo to immediately stop the sale of our SSNIT hotels. The SSNIT hotel sales has all the characteristics of classic state capture, which must be cancelled without further delay.
His lies and lies. Could they do your truth war?
It's a big question tonight on Ghana Connect. Should public officials be allowed to purchase state assets? And will you support a law to completely ban public officials from buying state properties? These and more with some really brilliant minds. We connect on this after the break.
When you want to eat, just Momo it. Tired of the long queues in the supermarket? Pay with Momo. When you really want that beautiful new blouse, just Momo it. When you want to get a trim and get fresh to impress you know who, just Momo it. When you need to pay your utility bills and domestic staff, Shani Momo. When you want to send love to the family back home, send some Momo. Join the millions of MTN Momo users all over Ghana and live life the brighter way. So just Momo it. MTN.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kindle Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom
Kingdom. And my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHS, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
Yeah. We have a new leader in town. OBRNT. Amanfo. Madam was Sibebre. When him say my baby, maybe mamu more charcoal for whiter teeth. More charcoal. Not only that, maybe mamu lemon. More lemon. Zinc for fresher breath. More zinc. And fluoride for stronger teeth.
Introducing the new President Charcoal Pack with more power with a combination of charcoal and lemon for naturally whiter teeth. Grab yours now. This advert is FDA approved.
Hello, my name is Mami Akuya, an entrepreneur and a mother of two. My work keeps me busy most of the time and sometimes it takes me away from my family. But the safety and health of my family is very important to me. As a working mother, I cannot afford to take any chances when it comes to matters of health. That is why I signed up for a family health care plan from Equity Health Insurance. My family and I have access to over 700 hospitals, clinics, opticians, dentists, pharmacies, and diagnostic centers across the length and breadth of Ghana. With Equity Health Insurance, I no longer have to worry about medical bills. Anytime a member of my family visits a hospital, Equity Health Insurance has got my family and I covered. What about you? Who has got you covered?
Call Equity Health Insurance on 050-660-7910 and talk to them about your family health needs now. Visit equityhealthinsurance.com for more information. Equity Health Insurance, here for you.
What is football? I elevated Inter to the pinnacle of European football by winning the treble. I beat the unbeatable Barcelona with Real Madrid, breaking all records on the way. I filled the hearts of the Romanists with joy after winning their first European title. I am relentless. I am ambition. I am a winner. I am José Mourinho. I am football.com.
Place your bets now.
Welcome back to the show. This is still Ghana Connect, Radio on Joy 99.7 FM. My name is Kwaku Asante. And like I told you before that commercial break, that big conversation about conflict of interest, about state capture. Should we allow public officials, politicians, to buy state assets, being it hotels, being it their bungalows, their vehicles? We want to have a general conversation about this on the back of that controversy, that raging controversy of SNET attempting to sell some 4 hotels, including Labadi Beach Hotel, to Rock City Hotel, owned by Food and Agric Minister Brian Achampong. So for those of you who have not really been following, here are some sounds to try and give you a story of what this is all about.
Eventually, Rock City is not showing interest in 2. What are those 2? Huzia and Trust Lodge, which in the portfolio are not doing very well. So ab initio, you see where the interest is. He's targeting the very profitable ones. Labadi Beach. He's looking at Elmina, strategic location, prime land, beachfront, La Palm, Ridge Royal. 6, eventually, Rock City is not showing interest in 2. What
director, as per Registrar General's document, one director and another person. But in the functional role that I will receive emoluments or occupy an office for profit in the organization, or my activities in the organization will prevent me from doing my work in parliament or as a minister, does not come in. So being a director, as per Registrar General's documentation, and functioning as a non-executive director in the functional role are two different things. So, Sami, you don't, and I have all the list of the NDC MPs who own shares in companies but don't have certificate from the speaker because of their roles in these organizations.
And life could do your true.
Call on President Akufo-Addo to immediately stop the sale of our SNIT hotels. The SNIT hotel sales has all the characteristics of classic state capture, which must be cancelled without further delay. 7, we are also appealing to the President to instruct the Blay family to stop the illegal encroachment of Labadi Beach Hotel's beachfront. 10, the Honorable Brian Champo and all politicians and politically exposed persons should never be allowed to buy state assets.
Big conversation, and we have the right people to connect with us on this conversation. Irene is a Ghanaian living in the United Kingdom. Irene, it's good to have you again on Ghana Connect.
Hello, Kwaku. Thank you very much. I'm also happy to be back again.
Kumi,
it's good. Yeah.
Right.
Hello.
Okay. Kumi Abebio is also a political activist. Kumi, it's good to have you on the show tonight.
Kwaku, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be on your show. I hope we'll have a very fruitful discussion and Ghanaians will be enlightened about what truly the matters on the SNIT sales are. Thank you.
Right. Dela is also a youth activist. Dela is not new to the show. Dela, it's good to have you again.
Thank you, Kwaku. Most grateful.
And then Ras Mubarak, the former member of parliament for Kumbungu. He knows a lot about private members' bill. In fact, when this new model in parliament was introduced, he was among the first to have introduced a private members' bill. And here we are with Kojusa Blakwa saying he's going to introduce something similar to ban public officials from buying state assets. Ras, it's good to have you on the show. Ras, can you unmute? Right. It appears I have a challenge with Ras. Ras will join us pretty shortly, and then we can zoom right in.
Good evening, Kwaku. It's good to hear from you.
Great. So, Ras, let me start from you, Ras. Where do you stand on this conversation? And let me tell listeners, 055-1111-997. You can also join in the conversation, 055-1111-997 on WhatsApp. Please do send us your message. Let us know what you think. Should public officials, politicians, be allowed to buy state assets at all? Ras, where do you stand on that?
Well, let me begin by saying that I commend Kujeto Ablakwa on his spirited attempts at unearthing corruption. That is one of the things that a member of parliament should be doing, defending the public purse and defending state institutions. So what he's doing is very commendable. I must also add that the manner in which Rock City is attempting to acquire some state hotels are quite offensive, inappropriate, and in a manner that should be frowned upon by anyone who loves our country, Ghana. Now, I'm sure there will be time enough to elaborate on these things. In terms of legislating for members of parliament not to acquire state property, I think that would be an overreach, because the constitution is clear. Every Ghanaian can acquire property. So if you were to legislate for a certain group of people not to acquire property, you would have been violating the 1992 Constitution, which gives every Ghanaian a right to own property.
Right, but these are specific properties, state properties. The same way, for instance, if you're not 18, you can't vote. There's some discriminatory element there, but I don't think that would infringe the Constitution. Don't you think?
So I'm going to elaborate on that, Kwaku. Every now and then, state properties are auctioned, and so if there's any Ghanaian who is interested in an auction, it has to be done in a manner that is open, where the public can actually see the processes of the auction, in the specific instance of Rock City, the bid should have been made public. There should be a lot of transparency. As far as the attempt to acquire Rock City is concerned, there was absolutely no transparency. So again, you also have laws in our Constitution. If you look at chapter 24, which is Article 284 of the 1992 Constitution, there are laws on how public officials should conduct themselves. The manner in which Brian Champong conducted himself is in violation of the very Constitution that we're talking about. Acquiring a state property in a manner that is not open to the public, in a manner that is shrouded in a lot of secrecy. Okay? So I'm saying, yes, even if STC wants to auction buses, every Ghanaian, be they public officials or teachers or nurses or doctors, should be able to apply in an open, competitive bidding process. The Constitution allows that. The Constitution also regulates the conduct of public officials. Okay? So if a public official misconducts himself, you don't go and create a private member's bill, to seek to regulate on whether or not public officials can acquire a public property. And I can tell you that as much as Okudzeto Ablakwa is doing a very fantastic job, if his private member's bill were to get to the floor, it would be defeated not just by members of the ruling government, by members of the NDC opposition, because it's in clear violation of our Constitution. Again, you look at the code of conduct of members of parliament. There's a code of conduct of members of parliament. There's a public officers code of conduct. So all of these things provide guidance, right? As a matter of fact, if you read Article 284 of the Constitution, a public official shall not put himself in a position where his personal interest conflicts or is likely to conflict with the performance of the functions of his office. In this case, Brian Champong's personal interests. Now, there's also a fundamental question, Kwaku, that many people are overlooking and are not asking, insofar as the attempt by Brian's company to acquire, some state properties. When did Brian become such a rich millionaire that he can actually go and make a grab at Labadi Beach Hotel? I mean, clearly institutions of state are not working. Because if institutions of state, like the Ghana Revenue Authority, the Serious Fraud Office, are working, there would have been serious questions. Brian is a public official. He's been a member of parliament. How much is the salary of a member of parliament? How much is the salary of a minister of state? How much are the allowances of members of parliament and ministers? And we have all manner of characters parading as politicians, overnight becoming multi-millionaires, and we seem to be okay with it as a country. And I blame institutions of state that ought to have been doing lifestyle audit of these politicians. Somebody gets into office, 4 years, 8 years, he's got property that is above his pay grade, and no state institution raises, issues with that. How much taxes has Brian Achampong paid over the years?
So, I mean, good point that you've raised there. You've raised there, and Ras, I want to put that to the other guests, and then we'll come around the table again. Kumi, certainly, Ras Mubarak has raised some good points about why this hotel sale should not even be going through in the first place. It says it breaches every single code of conduct that is available. Plus, where is Brian Achampong getting all that money from?
So, thank you. It's important that we put matters in perspective. Asking questions like, since when did Brian Achampong become so rich? It's quite unfortunate. That's one. Also saying that, I mean, when you listen to some of the things that are being said, it's very sad. Brian Achampong started the foundation of building Rock City in 2008, 8 years before he came into politics. You know what has been my fear with some of the comments that are being made? I see a lot of hate speech. I mean, when I say hate speech, you hear comments of state capture, hear comments of when did he become rich, hear comments of how much was he being paid. Then you hear comments of lifestyle audit. In this issue, we must separate Brian Achampong as a person from Brian Achampong, or let me say Brian Achampong as a politician from Brian Achampong, who is the shareholder or the majority shareholder of Rock City. You must deal with Rock City as an entity. Because if you look at the letters of comfort, they only say that they are given a letter of comfort because of the financials of who? Rock City, not because of what Brian Achampong has.
We must put on record. We must put on record though that Brian Achampong is the sole shareholder of Rock City as per the filings that have been published so far.
Exactly, and I'm saying that yes, as much as he's the sole shareholder, if Brian Achampong should die today, Rock City will continue. And that's very important for everybody to understand. What has been the process? We have to ask ourselves, is it true there was a tendering process? Smith says, I want a strategic investor. And this is not the first time Smith has been looking for an investor. During NDC's time, there was a manager at Smith, MD at Smith called Ernest Thompson. It's on the records. Only God knows why he didn't get an investor. But when this new management came, they said that we have a problem and we need to solve it. What is the problem? Our assets are depreciating. And people say that, the assets are making profits, so an asset can be making profits, but the performance of the asset is going down. Let me give you an example. If I run an Airbnb today, and I'm not maintaining an Airbnb, but yet people are still coming, I'll be making money. But my reviews will be going down. I'll be losing people. And the assets therein are deteriorating or depreciating. Would you say that I've appreciated the value of the assets? Or if today an independent valuator should come and evaluate the very Airbnb property I have, what marks would it give me? So it's always important that when a state institution is trying to sell an asset, they bring in something or someone called, or a group of people or a company called what? The transaction advisor. They must advise on the transaction. It's important for all of us to have it clear. And let's be honest to the facts. Let's ask ourselves, does Rock City have the capacity And capacity should be based on two things. The first one is the financials, and the second one is the operations. When you look at Rock City's financials, are they able? Did they get the comfort letter from their bankers or their bank to say that we can guarantee that Rock City will perform financially? Because when it comes to performing financially, it's not just about the money you are coughing up.
But Kumi, are you not overly focusing on what may be, of course, due process, great, comfort letters, competence and all that? The question is, Brian Achampong being the sole shareholder and being a minister of state, a cabinet minister, owning the company, should this interest of his be allowed to subsume state assets? I think that is the bigger question we are trying to find some answers to. Do you think that, that is proper?
No, I was coming to that.
Okay.
But what are some of the instances that can be available or instances that can let something called conflict of interest occur? One instance that can let conflict of interest occur is when we say that we have Snit is selling it for 100 Ghana, right? Snit is selling an asset for 100 Ghana. Someone bidded 60 Ghana. Then a state official comes and bids 18 Ghana. Then another person bids 2 Ghana. Someone has bid 60 Ghana. We bypass the 60 Ghana and say that let's give that access to the person that bid 18 Ghana.
Was it public?
Was it public?
Yes.
That one, you see, you need to ask Senate why. You see, this is what I'm saying.
It wasn't public.
Right? Listen, my brother. Let me.
If I may, just okay, for a minute, whilst you continue. You see, because you want to protect the sanctity of the state, because you want to make sure that public officials are not using their influence to overly get things. That is why I started by saying that any attempt to bar a public official from acquiring property, be they public or private, would be a violation of our own constitution. Every Ghanaian has a right to acquire assets. But if a public official is interested in a facility, Rock City, where Brian Achampong is majority shareholder, it has to be done in a manner that is public. Feely.
So if you are saying it has to be done in a manner that is public,
yes.
You are saying it has to be done in a. Is it Brian Achampong's? Is it the duty of Rock City to control what is going on?
Or that is the duty of say Snit that is doing the transaction. I get the point that you spread and Ras, hold it there for me. Kumi, also hold it there for me. I'll come back to you again. I see that you are building a point. I'll come back to you. But Irene, you live in a jurisdiction where conflict of interest is such a big deal. I've put that to Kumi Abebio. He sought to create a distinction. Where do you stand on this conversation that is going on about whether or not public officials should be allowed at all? Because in the places you live, in the UK, for instance, certain small details are all announced publicly. I mean, where do you stand on all this?
Thank you very much, Kwaku. So I would, before I even move on, I'm a lawyer in Ghana and in the UK, so I would necessarily delve into the law. So I understand what my colleague brother is saying, that it's about the property, and I understand he's also trying to make the point that Rock City is an entity that's a legal entity, a separate legal entity on its own, regardless of the shareholder. But let's bear in mind that Brian Achampong is the sole shareholder of Rock City, and he is a public official. That is number one. And that means that we need to take into account the word public in the whole definition. And on the other side, the property in question is a state asset. And that is also very necessary. That means that it belongs to the state. And that means that it belongs to the people. And that means that it belongs to the public. So now the risks, I understand Okuja Blackwell is based on Article 73, at 78.3, and I think mainly Article 98. And that is about public officials holding additional positions of profit without proper permission. But let's bear in mind that while the Ghanaian constitution does not provide specific articles explicitly allowing or prohibiting public officials from purchasing state properties. It also establishes a framework of transparency, which is very important, and accountability, and also avoidance of conflict of interest that governs the behaviors of public officials. So that means that public officials, such as Brian Echampon, they must adhere to the principles to avoid conflict of interest and ensure that whatever actions they're taking are in line with ethical and legal standards, which is very important. So in this instance, we are looking at several articles that we can name. My brother mentioned Article 284, that's about a public officer putting himself in a position that where his personal interest conflicts with or shouldn't conflict with his performance of his functions. There was also Article 286, where a person who holds a public office shall submit, he needs to submit to the Auditor General a written declaration of all property and assets owned and liability, whether him directly or indirectly. These are all things that ensures that conflict of interest and an avoidance of misuse of office. There are so many instances where we can talk about, even in the Constitution, Article 296, for instance, it says that where in the Constitution or any other law discretionary power is vested, that discretionary power shall be deemed to imply a duty of fair and candidness. So the question is the process all being fair? Is it being transparent? Is there some form of accountability? There are in as much as the Constitution is also alive, there are also some regulations as well that governs the conduct of public officials and state properties. We have the Public Procurement Act, for example. It gives you the guidelines on disposal of public property. And what does it say, Kwaku? It says that there should be a disposal committee. We need to ascertain whether even that was done in any way. There needs to be a method of disposal. We need to be several methods of disposal of the asset. There needs to be a public auction, for example. Was that all done? I mean, you would say that, it was Snit put up the proposal that, who any best. That is not, in the first place, they're not supposed, then it is a public asset.
The process, okay.
The hotels are public assets, they're state properties. And with that being a state property, you need to follow the right procedure. You need to follow strict guidance, adhere to the principles. We are following laws.
I mean, hold it there for me, Della. Let me throw. I beg your pardon, Irene. Let me bring in Della. The point Ras Mubarak has made, Irene has made that point, and Kumi Abibio sought to also go on the same tangent, has been about the process. With the way you've seen the process so far, are you satisfied that Brian Echampon should be allowed to go ahead and get this? And is a black one just involved in some which kind of a sort, particularly zoning in so much on him? Hello, Della.
Yeah, can you hear me, Kwaku?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I am a bit surprised in the manner in which my brother Kumi is trying to defend this. I mean, how on earth?
Hello. Well, it appears I have a challenge with Dela's connection. So let me go to Jesse Jakes, who has just joined us briefly. Jesse, briefly, I mean, where do you stand on all this?
This borders on power.
All right, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you. If you can do that quite briefly for me, I want to get your preliminary thoughts on this.
All right, so
hello.
Fast forward. The sale of state-owned institutions is very important, and it is a topic that demands a careful consideration and ethical scrutiny, because on the one hand, privatizing government-owned institutions can stimulate efficacy. It can also bring about innovation and some kind of economic growth. On the other hand, privatizing government-owned institutions can also raise some profound concerns about accountability, transparency, and equitable access. And I'm going to address this in three concerns. Now, there is a conflict of interest whenever it comes to the sale of state-owned institutions through private companies, because whenever a government official or a government appointee purchase a state-owned company, there is a high risk of conflict of interest, and there is some kind of favoritism in the contractual process. Do you get me? And we have accountability and transparency, as lawyer already said that the process of selling government-owned institutions can lack transparency and accountability, and the impact it has on all this process amount to unfairness and unethical behavior, because whenever you are selling a government state-owned property to its own government official, there is no promise of transparency and accountability, and therefore there is no even competitive bidding process in the wholesale competition. And we have public interest and social objectives. Now, state-owned institutions are often established to serve public interest. You get it, such as providing essential services, promoting economic stability, and achieving social goals. Now when you privatize these companies to individuals, especially those within the government, like what is happening to Brian Champon and the public, it shifts the focus of public service, because all state institutions are supposed to provide public service to the people to increase maximum profit.
Hello, Jesse. Well, I seem to have lost Jesse there. We are having a little challenge with our Zoom. We'll fix all of those. But Ras Mubarak, what should be happening on this call going forward? Because this is a big conversation that Black says is going to push through with this bill. It hasn't come up quite to the floor yet. But what should be happening to this transaction and the bigger problem of political actors, public officials seeking to amass state assets? What should be happening?
Well, first of all, the whole transaction ought to be abrogated. It ought to be, if it has to go forward, then it has to be done in a manner that is seen to, satisfy all legal requirements. I also think that we are losing sight of certain aspects of our constitution. And if you look at 285, I think, subsection 4, on declaration of assets, Kwaku, it says that any property or assets acquired by a public officer after the initial declaration by clause 1 of this article, and which is not reasonably attributed to income, gift, loan, inheritance, or any other reasonable source, Kwaku, shall be deemed to have been acquired in contravention of this constitution. It's in black and white in the Constitution of the Republic. So I would even go a step further to say that if Brian Champon is minded to clear his name, he should make public his a copy of his assets declaration from the time he's entered Parliament and subsequent years. And you would see in those declarations that this assets in question, which is Rock City, in the first place, was acquired after he became a public official. And according to the Constitution, it shall be deemed to have been acquired in contravention of the Constitution. Okay? As to whether or not a Blackware's attempt to have a private members bill done on this.
Hello, Ras. Hello, Ras. Well, I seem to have lost Ras Mubarak there making the point there. But Kumi, the general consensus around this table seemed to be that this transaction should just be thrown in the bin. It should be halted because of conflict of interest and because of the role Bernard Champon plays within the government. Perhaps he should wait another time that his government is out of office. He's no more a member of parliament. He can come on his own strength. Not now that he's in cabinet.
Kwaku, it's preposterous to sound like that. Kwaku, think about this. Yesterday I had a call. I was on Good Evening Ghana with Kwaku. Right after I had about 3 different calls from industry players who says that they are happy with how the discussion is going from my side, and I ask them why. And they tell me one thing, that there's this hate that has been going on for years. There's this company that was started by a gentleman called J.K. Sinyao back in the 80s. Just explaining what the hate is. Back in the 80s, Tata, Breway, and Kwaku Motors. Out of nothing, through jealousy and people thinking, oh, they had much, the PNDC government takes everything from them. Same thing happened to BA Mensa, International Tobacco. I wouldn't call this a witch hunt, because if you look at the things going on, it's beyond a witch hunt. It's pure hatred.
Oh my goodness.
and you have to ask yourself, if Snake has started a process, who is Brian Champon to tell Snake how to go about his process? That is where conflict of interest will come in. So if we think anybody has done anything wrong, it should be Snake that we should be attacking. If anybody has done something wrong against the state, it should be Snake answering questions. Not because you see someone who is in government. When did Brian even become a minister of state? It's a question we need to ask. When he became the minister, did the process start before he became a minister? These are all important questions. And if you should say there's a conflict of interest, can you prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Brian has spoken to somebody that worked this for me?
But it's not really a criminal standard. So prove beyond reasonable doubt is the high bar, criminal standard. Kumi, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the views that you've shared. Thank you very much. Ras, let me give you the word on this. Kumi has made a good point about the point that this may be hatred. This may be people just hating on Brian Champon and just making all these demands. And it's really not about fighting for conflict of interest or getting all these things done. It's just hatred.
Those kinds of sentiments are at best infantile. And the public has a duty to ask questions, about the propriety of his acquisition of public assets. Nobody hates Brian Champon. He's a public official. He's bound by the code of conduct for public officials. He's bound by the Constitution of Ghana. Okay? And so if we are raising legitimate questions, and the only thing that the gentleman can say is that somebody hates him, he's entitled to his views and opinion, but I think those views and opinions are infantile. The point I want to stress further is that the whole process would have to be abrogated. And I'm in shock as to how the president could allow one of his ministers to be embroiled in something like this, because it's even a distraction to the government. A minister is supposed to be working, he's out there defending, the acquisition by his company of a public asset.
Right.
That is wrong, and the president has to, put a stop to it.
Right.
On the parliamentary front, if I may land on this question.
Right.
If I may land on this. On the parliamentary front, any attempt to have, Parliament pass a private member's bill or a bill sponsored by government would not see the light of day, because it would be in violation of the Constitution. And I think Okudzeto Ablakwa has actually done a right thing by petitioning Straj. I mean, the Constitution makes provision that where there is conflict of interest, that is where you're supposed to go.
Right.
So I'm at a loss as to why he would want to go a step further on a private member's bill, which would not see the light of day by both sides of the House.
Or even if it does, perhaps will not be allowed to become law by the Supreme Court because they will deem it to be unconstitutional based on the view that you've expressed. Ras Mubarak, thank you very much. And today we have to wrap up early because the sports team is just on hand to bring you live commentary of Netherlands vs France in the ongoing European Championship. Thank you very much, Irene. Thank you very much, Kumi. Thank you very much, Della. And thank you very much, Ras Mubarak. We had a challenge with our Zoom, and so a lot of these conversations had to terminate early. We had a social media poll. Will you support a law to completely ban public officials from buying state properties? 94% voting yes and 6% voting no. That is from Joy News. And if you go to the Joy FM page, should public officials be allowed to purchase state assets? 11% say yes, they have no problem with that. 89% say that should not be allowed in Ghana. And these have been your comments. And this is how we wrap up on Ghana Connect today. The sports team is ready to take over. Razak Musbah is just around the corner. He is going to bring you all the team news. I've seen the teams already warming up, and it's going to be a really, really, really cagey encounter. So for those of you stuck in traffic, your best bet for this commentary is right here on Joy 99.7 FM. My name is Kwaku Asante, and this has been Ghana Connect. Thank you again, Irene. Thank you very much, Kumi. Thank you, Della, Ras Mubarak, and then Jesse. Apologies for the challenge we had with our Zoom. We'll fix that. And hopefully next week we'll be back again with another exciting edition of Ghana Connect. We'll be back same time next week Friday. Have a good weekend.